Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. Good morning. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for checking us out here on this Tuesday morning. We've got you covered here at 6:35 with George Fishman, Senior Legal Fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, on another decision from the Supreme Court. This allows for the Trump administration to strip illegal immigrants in this country from their temporary legal status. Shocking. It's temporary legal status. And so now it's no longer temporary. It's been removed because they only had it temporarily, you see. And the Supreme Court said, I'll allow it. 7:05, Congressman Ralph Norman, he's one of the critical votes on the big, beautiful bill. 7:35, General Jack Keane will join us. And then at 8:05, Dr. David Samadi will get his take on the, can we call it prostate gate, Julie Gunlock? Is that?
I think I like it.
Prostate
I like
gate.
it. I think you've
Or
started
prostate.
something.
Prostate.
Okay.
Prostate gate. I don't know. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Late night last night.
That's right.
For me, it was
Tell us.
another one tonight. It was Five for Fighting in Annapolis. John Andrasik, and tonight at the Birchmere.
Oh, that's so great.
Sold out. Don't even try.
Are you tired? Are you so tired?
I'm fine. I can't imagine how John feels.
Oh,
It's so amazing. And he
I
announced
bet he gets to
yesterday
sleep in.
He's 60. No. I think he's doing a local television show this morning.
Oh
He'll
dear.
be performing on, I think, over on Channel 7.
Dear.
So no, he's just tireless. He's fantastic. And he announced from the stage yesterday he's 60 years old, which
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
makes me feel old as well.
Well, also
Not 60. I don't feel that old.
I really don't stay out past 8 anymore, so that really makes me
understand.
feel old.
Young Matt Foldy joined us last night
Oh, nice.
in Annapolis at the
fun.
at the concert. But anyway, he was great, and it's wonderful. And those songs just make you.
Well, I was in the car for 5 days. It felt like 5 days, 5 hours, getting my kid, baseball, travel.
Well,
You get it.
is he doing baseball in North Carolina?
Feels like it. I could have touched North Carolina.
Is that how bad?
Very
the
far
traffic was?
away. What?
Is that how bad?
Oh,
the
it's
traffic
awful.
was?
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. It's awful. I mean, if you leave D.C. around the time the Pentagon lets out, forget it.
Well, tonight is also going to be so we've got John Andrasik at the Birchmere tonight. It's going to be
Nice.
and the Birchmere is like 3 times bigger than the Rams
Yeah.
Head in Annapolis. But talking to Five for Fighting after the show, and it's going to be loaded with all our media and politics pals there, so that'll be fun. But also at 5 o'clock today, CPAC is announcing the American Conservative Union's ratings for congressmen and senators, where they give them a rating based on how conservative they are. So that's earlier today on Capitol Hill. So another busy day ahead. But that's the business we've chosen. This is the life we've chosen.
That's it.
But one good thing, every time I start to feel, concerned or tired or busy or overwhelmed and what have you, I always think to myself, well, at least I don't have to pay my friends to say they like me. How bad would that be? Imagine if you actually had to have your company, let's say, or let's say your campaign, write a big fat check for someone just for the benefit of having them tell the world that they like you. That's kind of where Kamala Harris finds herself now, as continuing revelations of her campaign finance come out. Here, take a listen to this. You might remember this very famous voice. See? She was very big in the 90s and early 2000s. Let's say Alanis Morissette, who, of course, endorsed Kamala Harris because, of course, and performed at one of her campaign events. It turns out now, thanks to some digging by investigative reporter Laura Loomer, the campaign spent $95,000.
Oh, weird. So it wasn't because she just liked her.
Yeah. It's like, no. I want to be your friend. Oh, that's great. Because you're a big Hollywood star and you're a celebrity. All right. I will give you $95,000. Oh, yes, you are definitely my friend.
Yes, you are my friend.
Thank you so much for being my friend. FEC records show that Kamala Harris's campaign, the failed campaign, the one that died, the one that was a disaster, the one that was like a drifting, powerless Mexican tall ship floating into the Brooklyn Bridge and collapsing. They paid singer-songwriter Alanis Morissette's company, Epiphany Productions, $95,000 for services. In fact, it was categorized under catering, food, and beverages. I don't know if Alanis Morissette was really catering Kamala Harris's campaign event.
It says no, only 6.6 thousand, so 6,600 was categorized as catering, food, and beverages. It wasn't the whole thing. They just put the 66. But, $7,000 spread. It's a lot of donuts.
It's impressive. And that couldn't have been just for the roadies and the talent. I mean, I can't believe the writer asks for $7,000. $88,000 was spent to Epiphany Productions, New York address, which is Alanis Morissette is the CEO.
CEO.
It's her company. It's her production company. So there you go. So President Trump yesterday posted on the X platform, according to news reports, Beyonce was paid $11 million to walk on stage to endorse Kamala. Didn't even perform a song. This is an illegal election scam at the highest level. It's an illegal campaign contribution. Bruce Springsteen, Oprah, Bono, and perhaps many others have a lot of explaining to do. Now, if you're a journalist and you see that and you uncover all of this money going to all of these performers, I would think that you would raise an eyebrow, not just Laura Loomer. I would think that anybody would look at that and raise an eyebrow and say, well, this is worth scrutiny. And when the President of the United States says this should be investigated, I would think that you would take that seriously, right?
You think?
Guess who's actually involved in covering up and mocking President Trump about it? The greatest, most important, most serious journalist in Washington, D.C.
Our politics lead, it's an interesting thing amidst all these important developments going on with deportations and tariffs. President Trump is also simultaneously trying to pick fights with A-list celebrities who have historically backed Democrats, such as
he's picking
Beyonce,
fights.
Oprah, the boss, Bruce Springsteen, to name a few. Mr. Trump claiming on Truth Social that the Kamala Harris campaign paid Beyonce $11 million for her endorsement. That was after he called for a major investigation into the matter. This was at a Truth Social post at 1:30 in the morning. Federal Election Commission filings showed that the Harris campaign did pay Beyonce's Parkwood Production Media $165,000 in November 2024 and then made two payments of $500,000 to Oprah's Harpo Productions in October. You might remember Oprah did an interview-ish with Kamala for the campaign. Both Beyonce's team and Oprah's team have said that the money was for production costs. My panel joins me.
And then they have a panel discussion to make fun of it. You know, you would think of all the people in this town that has a teleprompter, a good haircut, and a camera to talk to, that he'd be a little bit humble about things like this. He'd be a little chagrined, right?
Jake Tapper is a fame chaser. He really is. There's another word for it that I will not say on air.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. But there's he that is what he is. He actually loves fame more than his country, more than journalism,
more than the truth.
And Tapper, I mean, everybody needs to realize Tapper now is chasing celebrity and nothing and money and nothing else. And so these are his people. He really views this as his people.
Oh, that's
and
let's face it.
And I love that he basically admits that 1.5 million. I mean, he according to his calculations, 1.5 million was shoveled out, and he's like, "That's it. That's it."
And it was
they paid for these endorsements.
That's right. No. Oprah gave an interview, and they needed a production
Just for catering.
cost. You see.
Just for
That's
catering.
how things happen. Yeah.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
As we continue to scrutinize the awful people in the legacy corporate media, we'll give you an update now on the continuing legal battle between President Trump, not as president, actually, I should probably better refer to him in this context as Donald Trump, American citizen, and his fight with CBS News. Now, you'll remember CBS News creatively edited the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes interview Many would look at their efforts to make Kamala Harris look as good as possible in that interview and leave half of the interview on the cutting room floor as, at the very least, an assist to make Kamala appear as though she is clear, coherent, can answer a question with some modicum of intelligence, and potentially boost her appearance to the American people as a viable president. That would be wrong. That would be deceptive. That would actually be, well, illegal, frankly, or at the very least, let's not call it a criminal act, but let's say it a act that would damage Donald Trump's potential. And, of course, using their power as a major broadcast news network that owns many FCC licenses in many towns. So President Trump was suing CBS News. He successfully sued ABC News and George Stephanopoulos. They settled for $16 million. Well, as this lawsuit continues to go down the path, and at the same time, CBS News is hoping for FEC approval of their mega billion-dollar merger. CBS executives at Paramount are quite upset and continue to war with the 60 Minutes people, who, of course, you'll remember the 60 Minutes executive producer who quit in a huff because he said that his editorial judgment is being questioned, and he just felt like he couldn't do his job the way he's been doing it under these conditions. In other words, he can't keep lying to the American people. The executives are stepping in and saying, "What are you guys doing over there?
Right.
This is atrocious. This is 60 Minutes. This is a valuable asset that we own."
It's more like, guys, it's not working anymore. Okay, they were fine when it was working, but now they're like, okay, guys, they're on to us. So can we change tack here?
Well, here's the latest. Apparently, CBS News president Wendy McMahon has abruptly resigned yesterday, unexpectedly. She said it's become clear that the company and I do not agree on the path forward. So not just at 60 Minutes, but now the president of CBS News is stepping down. This is supposedly, they're now close to a settlement. It's estimated to be a $20 to $30 million settlement over what 60 Minutes did. And here's the thing, and I know that the conspiracy theory is CBS News doesn't really think they did anything wrong, but this is a payoff so they can get FEC approval on their merger and their takeover, and that way the executives can all get rich from the takeover, and they don't care. And that's quite possibly what the CBS executive. It's quite possible that that's the truth. Or hear me out. Or it could be that CBS News realizes exactly what they did, realizes that it was wrong, realizes that they could lose that lawsuit, and they realize that it's better to settle for $20 or $30 million to make it go away.
Well, it's interesting what Wendy McMahon said in her. She said that she sees no path forward, right? Which makes it sound like she disagrees with what CBS says is the future of the news department, which is perhaps a little bit more balanced coverage, perhaps, I don't know, the truth and honesty with viewers. And that, just her statement saying, I don't agree with the path forward, suggests what you say, which is it's not just some cynical deal because they want this merger to go through. It sounds like they were actually making changes to the newsroom that she disagreed with, which is good news. I mean, look, I'm not Pollyanna. I don't think it'll actually work, but it does sound like there's some disruption going on.
One insider told the New York Post it makes sense for Wendy to exit now because new management is coming in and they're going to change everything.
Well, there you go.
Another insider said, and I think this is pretty close to the truth, it's a bit late to stand up for journalism given what she's done to CBS News. It's not even the ratings. It's the quality of the journalism.
Isn't it so interesting, Larry? This is a white woman, white middle-aged woman, so much like the NPR head, right? She actually looks a lot like her, right? And you think about how these white liberal women have destroyed so many of America's institutions, mostly journalism.
Yeah, it's 5:23.
Coming up, we've got some SCOTUS news. The Supreme Court yesterday ruled that the Trump administration can end temporary protected status for about 350,000 Venezuelans. It's a big story. We've got the latest. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37 now as we plow through this Tuesday morning's news cycle. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company to get yourself started the right way. Coming up at 6:35, George Fishman, Senior Legal Fellow at Center for Immigration Studies. We're going to talk about a Supreme Court decision that just came down. In fact, we're about to talk about it in detail in a moment. 7:05 brings us Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina, who apparently is one of those no votes on the big, beautiful bill. We'll find out what needs to change. It's 7:35. General Jack Keane, four-star general, retired, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. Are we going to have a resolution to the Russia-Ukraine war? That phone call with Putin yesterday. Also, Trump is now saying that he's open potentially to having peace talks occur at the Vatican per Pope Leo's invitation. Interesting. And then at 8:05, Dr. David Samadi on prostate gate. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Can't get a handle on this Supreme Court. As you know, they sort of, on Friday, they decided against the Trump administration, but it's not exactly as bad as the headlines said. You know, the Supreme Court blocked the Trump administration from deporting illegal immigrants using the Alien Enemies Act. Well, not really.
No. Right.
What they did was they said that they have to give them more than 24 hours notice. That's not the same as blocking, just saying, okay, you do have to give them some notice. Here's the problem. The Supreme Court never said what that notice should be. They just know that 24 hours ain't enough.
Yeah, just like the facilitate, you know,
right.
It's all very murky and up for interpretation.
We would like clarity, please. This is what Pope Francis, God rest his soul, is no longer with us. Let's be clear now on doctrine. Well, yeah, you could go this way, you could go that way. You're the Supreme Court, for God's sake. You know. It's one thing when you say, you know, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know how long the appropriate notice should be, but I know 24 hours isn't enough. Okay, so 25 hours? What? I mean, we'll keep talking until we get to the number. All right, so there was that. Now, yesterday, the Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration's petition. This had to do with the reversal of temporary protected status that was afforded to about this case in particular was over 300,000 individuals from Venezuela. Based on most of the photographs the media shows, it all seems to be men of a certain age, in their 20s and early 30s.
I'd say it was, fighting age? Oh, yeah.
Military age.
That's right.
It's not an invasion, though. Don't get me wrong.
No.
It's not an invasion because when you're invaded, people line up on your border and just plow through, which, you know, we have seen, but not in this case. These 300,000, they didn't actually plow through our border.
They didn't have
to. The Biden administration sent planes down to Venezuela.
Right.
You paid for all this. The Biden administration sent planes to Venezuela, loaded up the planes, and then flew these people into this country. They exploited a law called the parole. It's not a law, but it's a program set up by DHS called parole, which for certain extraordinary circumstances allowed for people to come into the country illegally based on the judgment of Border Patrol and ICE agents. Parole used to be used for, you know, woman's at the border trying to get in, apprehended, but she's in labor. It's all right, fine, go to a hospital. Well, you know, temporary protective status. Instead, this temporary protective status was afforded to hundreds of thousands, close to 1 million people, including all those Haitians that were accused of barbecuing kitty cats up in Springfield, Ohio, temporary protected status. And these Venezuelans, I mean, again, we have a hostile relationship with the government of Venezuela. Why we're flying a plane down there and letting Maduro load the worst of the worst from his country onto a plane and then fly them into the interior of our nation, you would only get an answer from Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Alejandro Mayorkas. One of them's brain doesn't work. One of them's brain never worked, and the other one should be in jail. I'll let you decide who is who there.
Well, yeah. Maybe all three.
So the judges justices, yesterday lifted a federal judge's prohibition of the administration to remove that temporary protected status.
Another
Think about that for
rogue federal judge.
Yes. So
nationwide injunction.
Trump comes in. Okay, so Joe Biden's president. He flies these people into the country and gives them temporary protective status. What's the first word in temporary protective status?
Temporary.
Thank you. Which means, by definition, it's not
permanent.
Thank you. Which means at any given time, that protective status will disappear.
Lifted. Yes.
And be taken away.
Yes.
So Biden flies them in here, gives them the temporary status. Donald Trump, new president, he's running for office. He says, elect me, and I will make these people go back to where they came from. The American people, using democracy, says, yes, that's what we want. Vote for him. Puts him in office. He does what he said he was going to do, and one judge somewhere in Podunk, Arkansas, well, more likely Podunk, Southern California.
It's my moment to shine.
This is it. Finally, I'm going to stand up to Trump. That whole coexist bumper sticker is actually going to mean something. Finally, one no-name judge decides you can't do that. You can't do that.
No,
but wait,
so mean.
Tens of millions of people just voted for this man to do exactly that. Right. And it's completely in his purview as the president of the United States. You can't do that.
Well,
hate has no home here.
There's also a Venezuelan gang wreaking havoc in Colorado and other areas, including Northern Virginia, that maybe these 350,000 Venezuelans, maybe some of them are part of this gang. I mean, it's not like these were all, puppies who came in, who are bringing nothing but joy. No.
I don't know what you have against due process, Julie. But each one of those 300,000...
Hey, get me a wife-beating, human trafficking gang member, and I will be happy.
Chris Van Hollen is going to pay you a visit. You're going to get it. Each one of those men, and they're all men pretty much, they deserve their day in court, and then they deserve their appeal, and then they deserve an appeal of the appeal, and then they deserve to go to the Supreme Court if necessary. That's called due process. Every single one of them.
Every single one.
So the Supreme Court has lifted that ban. As of now, the temporary protective status is in fact gone, and they can be deported. Is there more to this story, though? We'll find out at 6:35 from George Fishman, Center for Immigration Studies. Right now it's 5:44.
WMAL, making sense of the markets, because generational wealth doesn't build itself. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
All right, lots to unpack here. The latest out of the Russia-Ukraine war. First, Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had an extensive meeting with Pope Leo XIV. They were in the Vatican City to attend his inaugural Mass on Sunday, and then yesterday, or they actually had a big meeting. Then they went to Ukraine and had a sit-down with President Zelensky and discussed, what needs to be done here to end the war. At the same time, simultaneously, at 10 a.m. yesterday, President Trump had what is called a 2.5-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin. Wow. And then Donald Trump put out a statement and said after his call that after his call with Putin, that Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations for a ceasefire, and said that we have to stop this bloodbath. He also said that they are exploring the option of having a peace talk, a summit at the Vatican. Here's President Trump commenting on that later in the day.
The Pope would like to take a role potentially in mediating these talks. Does that mean that the U.S. is taking a step back from...
No. I think it would be great to have it at the Vatican. Maybe it would have some extra significance. And I saw that it was discussed yesterday, so I thought... And people told me that they'd be honored to do it. I would imagine they would be.
Did you notice the question, by the way? Pope Leo says that he would be interested in, helping this summit along. Does that mean that your role is being reduced here? In other words, trying to, pick a fight between Trump and the Pope. Right. Ego.
They love to stir it up.
It's so annoying. Pope Leo XIV put out a statement on X because, of course, the Pope tweets. He's American. He said the Holy See is willing to help enemies meet so they may look each other in the eye and so people may be given back their dignity, the dignity they deserve, the dignity of peace. With heart in hand, I say to the leaders of nations, let us meet, let us dialogue, let us negotiate. So that's the latest. It looks like, and as I said, General Jack Keane is going to be joining us at 7:35 to give us some details on the status and what seems to be the sticking points right now. But it could be that the American Pope, Pope Leo, may end up sort of lending a hand here and being a place of neutrality between these two countries.
Yeah, I worry. Putin has continued to bomb parts of Ukraine. There are just some horrifying stories coming out of Ukraine. So, look, I hope this is real. I mean, he also made a threat recently that, using nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So, he's a wily one, and I worry. I really do. I mean, I think that he keeps conceding things to Trump or agreeing to things, and then bombs fall. So we'll see if this turns out to be anything. I hope it does, because all of his promises have not resulted in any sort of peace deal or any sort of ceasefire. So
it's 5:52.